We are back for the first Baschamania episode of the year, the first word of Baschamania for the year, with my guy Willie. My favorite child gave me this mug. Willie, do you have a child?
No, my sister gave it to my mother.
Okay,
That's what
because I
happened
mean
there.
that might have taken the show in a whole different direction.
I mean, who knows? I hope not.
We've got a lot to talk about, Willie. This show is brought to you by our great friends at Attack ATAC. Download the Attack app today if you haven't yet. Champions aren't born, they're made. Attack's a training app for athletes. Everybody's here to level up. Download Attack, they'll help you. Willie, this is going to be a hodgepodge of a show.
Well, it's funny that I wanted to. Everybody's up in arms about wrestling, not wrestling, participation, forfeits, what have you, right? The story of the hour is less wrestling.
Yeah.
And some of the excuses are there's a lot going on around the holidays. And people ask why I haven't done a show yet in a long time. And I want to say there's a lot going on around the holidays, which is true. I mean, one factor of why we see less wrestling is the holidays. It's true, right? But we're gonna, it's a whole
yes and no though, because
but we haven't done. The point is, we haven't done a show in a long time.
Yeah,
and so there's a lot to get to.
I haven't either, and I am planning on having Dresser on Friday. Because I was texting with Carr, he's my guy, and I was saying, dude, I love, in the midst of all this chaos, Dresser came out last week, did a press conference 3 days before the scuffle, and before anybody asked any questions, he took his phone out, he went through the lineup, weight by weight, and said, yup, he's competing. No, he's not competing. Panero tweaked his foot. He should be back for Wyoming. Carr, Coleman, we're resting them. They're old. Like, he went through NFL style injury report, and I thought
that's all we ask.
And I thought it was freaking great. So I'm going to have
all we ask. And it's, it doesn't have to be a state secret, right? That's
by the way,
rare in wrestling. And
correct. And I told Carr, I'm like, I'm having him on Baschamania instantly. I think this needs to be put in a spotlight where, great. Oh my, listen, we both have had coaches freak out over us because we say an athlete's injury. Okay, Panero has a hurt foot. Is somebody going to try to come take his foot out next week? Like, come on, grow up. And I get it. And I'm not asking for people to disclose injuries. But my point being, I guess we'll start, we'll talk about the tournaments. But before we start talking about the tournaments, like you said, a huge topic was, and I'm more sensitive to it even than most fans because I'm trying to help promote and market the sport. And when I take time out to put a thing about, Ridge competing and then not competing and then saying, oh my gosh, O'Toole, Carr, and Shane could all be at the scuffle. 1, 2, 3. This never happens.
Right. Yep.
And then it slowly starts unwinding. And as you start to hear a lot of the reasons why people weren't wrestling, Ben Askren said that Keegan O'Toole basically thought he was wrestling. Then the coaches said he's not 100%, so we're not going to put him out there. Carr, Dresser said he just wanted to rest him. Ridge had travel issues. Holidays or not, I don't even think a lot of this is holidays. I think this comes down to, I don't know if you put that article out yet about how low participation is with like number of matches wrestled for an All-American 10 years ago compared to now.
I ran the numbers. I was I was so incensed about what we thought we would see. And there's two issues here of why I got upset. Well, 3 really. One is the difference between what we think we're going to see and what we ultimately see.
Yep.
Okay. Because that's just, if you tell me that the field is 7, 9, 12, and 15 in the country, I'm like, okay, I'm prepared for that. But if you tell me it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 17, and 19, then I'm all geared up. And then when I do get the teens, it's a letdown, right? It's sort of, I'm not mentally prepared for that, right? If you tell me I'm going to see Tom Brady and then I end up seeing Mac, what's his name? Mac Jones?
Mac Jones.
It's different. right?
Yep.
So it's number one, it's the marketing of it and the not knowing. Two, it's the participation, because we have less teams participating in the holiday tournaments overall. And now they're spread up amongst three. And the debate was had back in the day when the Scuffle, when they were first founded, you know, there was a beef back then too. It was like, oh, it's watering down one or the other.
Well, I said that. I'm like, should we combine all three? And I only said really Soldier Salute because Soldier Salute simply takes Iowa away from one of the two big ones.
Yeah.
And it gives all the teams that went to Soldier Salute a third option. And you already have all these teams who, you know, I know some of these teams did go to, like, Iowa State went to collegiate duels and then wrestled some guys, but like you have collegiate duels and Soldier Salute now, where you saw Penn State, Iowa, Cornell, Iowa State's starters. You see all these guys now not competing. And like you said, a lot of it's expectations, because we're expecting these top matches. We're expecting a tournament of the caliber where you can't turn away all day, versus it ends up being the tournament where you're tuning in to see certain matches. You know, friends are texting, hey, so-and-so's wrestling so-and-so from the quarters. I really got to watch this one. It changes the whole dynamic completely. And I had put out, so everybody agrees, just throw it all in one tournament, right? And you said absolutely not. And other people did too. There's a lot of people who don't like that idea.
Right. Twitter's hard because you only get a certain amount of characters and you don't get some nuance to it. But I say absolutely not, but with the caveat that my dream scenario is probably far-fetched. I say absolutely not, but maybe if I'm not going to get my way. And my way would be build up all three. Everybody, every college program go to a tournament. If every D1 program goes to a holiday tournament, there's enough that three can still be interesting. Now, you take away half the teams that didn't go anywhere, and now you have a problem. But yeah, between what we expected to see, between the number of teams that didn't go anywhere, and then the cherry on top, when we did get to the brackets, the forfeits.
I was just going to say, we got kicked when we were down. It's all of a sudden, I had tweeted out Harvard, one of Harvard's lightweights, had 7 matches. He lost in the opening round. Then he had 7 matches in the wrestlebacks to take third. 3 of them were medical forfeits. 3, including the final 2, the Conci semis and the Conci finals. Both of them were medical forfeits.
Yeah, you know what? And so my research is a little I mean, I call it research. What I did was, I'm going to put this in an article form, but I'll release it here first. I looked up all the All-American. I looked up all the All-Americans from 2012. Matt McDonough, 125 first. How many matches did he have going to NCAAs? He had 39. Okay. Take the second place guy. How many matches did he have? 37. Right. I did that for every All-American in 2012. And I did it for every All-American last year. And you know what the difference was? 29% less matches. The average All-American in a 10-year span wrestles only 2/3 of the schedule that they used to. And that is not accounting for the newfound trend, because I didn't have time to look at all that stuff up. But Diego Sotelo, right? He took third at Midlands. On his record will go 3 bouts that he never wrestled.
Yep.
So when the number goes in the system, it'll say he's 30-7, but really he's 27-7. And it also goes on another qualifier. It goes 3 times on their record too as a loss. So not only are they down 29% in total matches wrestled before NCAAs, it's probably even more than that, because the medical forfeits count on the record. So, and there's certainly more medical forfeits than there was in 2012. Now, I've been talking to coaches the past couple of days, and I say, what's the reason for it? What's the reason for it? And they just say, Willie, you're going to have to buckle up, because it's the new reality. It's the new reality, and you're shouting at clouds. And well, I mean, they didn't say that, but
yeah,
at the end of the conversations, I feel like, you know what? I'm grumpy old man guy. I'm grumpy old man guy. That's the only way to put it, because the wrestling that we knew, the college wrestling that we knew, that's dead.
but do you think that if enough people are complaining that things, I don't, if there was going to be any changes, I do think it's going to come from the gross amount of complaining out there that this is ridiculous. When ticket sales go down, when streams go down,
that's what it is.
When these things happen, which that's all a result of complaining too. Like if you or I or anybody else is complaining, the physical reaction from that is going to be not going to an event, not traveling to an event, not promoting an event.
Did you see Extreme Arena? There's nobody in it, and that's Iowa's hub. Did you see Midlands? Smallest crowd. I mean, last year there was no crowd because there was all kinds of restrictions, and it was late minute and last minute notice. And anyway, don't count. That's an outlier.
Yeah.
But that's the smallest Midlands crowd I've ever seen. It was just nobody in Extreme Arena, on the heels of nobody in the arena for World Cup. I didn't really see what the crowd looked like at the scuffle, but that's when you have change. It's not going to be because Willie shouts and Justin shouts at the mountaintops and the fans argue, oh, you need to wrestle. The change will happen when Midland's shut down because they can't afford to operate.
You know what the funny thing is? And we could talk about the drama because it was all over my timelines. I posted the video, but here you have a problem where people don't wrestle and people get disappointed. And then you have a situation where Spencer Lee wrestles a full bracket and wrestles Drake in the final, something nobody thought would happen.
Right.
You would have put a lot more people in the seats, I bet.
Yeah.
Come out and say Spencer's wrestling this weekend.
Imagine if, that's a good point. There were nobody in the seats because of the track record of forfeiting. And not just for Spencer, because Spencer, I mean, I'm not going to blame Spencer.
Spencer has a legitimate reason to only wrestle a couple matches.
Spencer has the most extreme case. But 10 years ago, that place would have been filled to watch Spencer and Drake because there was no doubt in their mind that those two would wrestle.
Yeah.
10 years later, there's nobody there because, oh, yeah, they're both in the bracket, but there's no way they're going to wrestle.
Even Iowa fans, I tweeted, hey, Hawks, please give us Spencer versus Drake. Right. And Iowa fans were DMing me like, we know it's not going to happen. If you're on, and listen, the drama, we'll touch on it briefly. It obviously wasn't supposed to happen. All the rumors are that Spencer wanted Drake to medical forfeit because Spencer didn't want to wrestle a hole. He's still easing back into it. And then there was those antics after, which I typed out like 10 tweets, deleted them all. And all I put out was Spencer Lee after beating his teammate. You know, I do think like my reaction with people I was texting about it is I think that should be behind the scenes. I think that there's an element of realism and passion and emotion in wrestling. It's a very grueling sport, but you know, it goes back to all the rumors that, you know, Spencer won't wrestle other guys in the room or why Gilman left. It kind of sheds light on that. I don't hold it against Spencer. I don't like the bad sportsmanship, but I don't fault it against him. I think by the time, you know, Cody had that long interview with him after, he had already calmed down and was, you know, praising Drake for wrestling too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get to that, but I just really want to drive home the fact that there was nobody in the stands because what has happened in the last 5 years has told us, don't go. It's not going to happen. Do you understand the gravity of that? I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, Spencer, for me, I saw it happen. I thought it was heat of the moment stuff. Listen, it's been examined like the Zapruder film. Right. And people are saying, well, don't look that much into it. Well, Spencer Lee, Spencer Lee and Yanni get scrutinized the most. People are expecting a reaction every time the match is over, no matter what. And I feel as if Yanni and Spencer do something, say something, act something because they think they're expected to from the fans, no matter what it is. Like at collegiate duels, right? Yanni beats Panero Johnson and says, "This is my weight. This is my weight." When I really don't think that's natural for Yanni to do. I think
Yanni's been through a lot the last couple of months with the ups and downs, but also that's not his teammate. Like I was not about to spend my whole weekend arguing with people on Twitter, but the reason I thought it was newsworthy of sharing was if Brandon Courtney went and beat Richie Figs in the finals and said he wanted to go, he wanted it.
Yeah,
I'd share the same video. Well, I don't care that it was Spencer, but the fact that it happened with Spencer, and he's, the team leader, he's the captain, he's the 3-time national champ. The fact that it happens, whether in the reactions on my timeline were completely split.
Oh yeah,
50% of the people said, "Toughen up, you're soft. This is wrestling." The other half said, "Don't like the bad sportsmanship." It wasn't swayed either way. The reactions were, from my viewing.
Yeah, 50- I mean, the Hawkeye Report people and the people that, you're saying we're on one side, one polarized on one way, they say, "Oh, this is nothing. This is big deal. This is nothing burger." Listen, you can't say that this is nothing. And also, the same people that are saying it's nothing, calm down, are the same group that thinks Spencer walks on water. Okay? You can't have it both ways. Spencer cannot be the biggest face in the sport, which he is right now in college wrestling. He cannot be the biggest face of the sport. And also that happened and people not talk about it.
Right.
I mean, when Derek Jeter sneezes, when Joe Montana had to stop the tire, that overanalyzed everything, right? So Spencer Lee being the biggest face, he does that. If he did that to Brandon Courtney, we'd be like, "Oh, that's a little wrinkle, right? That's a little chip on the shoulder of Spencer." You do it to a teammate, now it's even going to be exacerbated.
Correct.
Right? And so,
I can't think of another example of that. Can you?
Of what?
A teammate beating a teammate and then having like a little bit of a chirpiness, whether it's back and forth, one way, either way, whatever.
Yeah.
That's why, to me, when I saw it, because I missed the match initially. We had family over and stuff. And I went back and watched it. And after I go, "Wait, what just happened?" Like that, it caught my eye more than anything because it was a teammate. That's what I think was, if that happens in a normal match, I don't care. Great. The news aspect was the team.
Right. I've always been, you're asking these guys to be freaking hard-headed warrior, and then you're also asking them to control their emotions and not celebrate and not maybe push off.
No, let them celebrate. Let them go crazy. I don't care. Yeah.
I've always been that way. And the same here with Spencer. What makes it interesting to me is the whole script of it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is videos were circulating after the semis. Spencer, clear as day, said,
"I'm done."
Something to the effect of, "Okay, I'm done." Right? So, okay, confirmed all our suspicions. We're not going to have Drake and Spencer in the finals. Okay. You couple that video with what happened then Spencer and Drake are going to wrestle, and you're like, let's see what this looks like. One, I don't even know if I believe it's going to happen. And number two, if it does happen, how much is Spencer really going to be into it? He obviously doesn't want to go. He just said it.
Yep.
Okay. So then you have what happened in the finals, and Spencer very clearly says to the corner, that's what he wanted. He wanted it, right? Which says to me, Spencer didn't want to go in the finals. Drake wanted to, probably Tom wanted to, and Spencer said, "I'm the alpha," and that's what you get, okay? I don't think there's much. I don't think it's as bad as what people. Some people think, oh, that's terrible sportsmanship, and that's this and that. In fact, I'll be honest. Do you want to show up your teammate like that? Probably not, especially when he's a young pup, especially when he's the heir apparent. You probably don't want to show him up. But at the same time, you got a chip on your shoulder. You're making me wrestle this match? Okay, I'm going to beat your ass. Okay?
And I think that, like, that exact reaction would not surprise me when guys are in the room. Then I would expect that. Like, leave me alone. I'm not 100%. I'm not going when I don't have to. Okay, you want it? I'm going to give it to you. Right. And he went out there, and he looked damn good in that match.
I'll tell you right now.
I moved Spencer right up in my hot rankings.
That's the best Spencer I saw in years. We need to, like, piss him off more often.
Yeah.
Because that is the best Spencer I saw in a long time. And that's not me overestimating Drake. Drake's really good. But Spencer looked mean, boy. And Spencer looked untamable. But I agree that you might not want that. Some people might say that's a bad look for Spencer. Obviously, Drake and his family are not going to be real thrilled about it, right? You face mushed me, then you mean mugged me. Then you said on camera that's what he wanted. Okay? They might not like that. It might not be the best look. But that was Spencer's reaction. And Spencer has been persistently the face of the band. Spencer pisses me off sometimes for being too sanitary. That's why I don't know. I'm not going to say I liked it, but I think for once, Spencer was himself. Far too often, I think Spencer knows that he needs to publicly speak, right? He knows that he's the face. He's almost a politician. And he says the good things outwardly. He says the good things. He says the things he should say. He's always been a good little soldier that way.
Totally.
Represent the program the way that it should. Represent myself the way that I should. Say the kind of clean, wholesome, sanitary things. And for once, Spencer acted like he just let his emotions go. And for that, we kind of saw a little realness in him.
Yeah. And that's why my final, like, decision with the caption was just Spencer Lee after beating his teammate. It wasn't, it's like there's a lot you can say one way or another. Yeah. Listen, he's also a college kid. All these kids are young college kids.
Yeah.
Spencer's older than some, but for the most part, they're all young college kids. And, I know I said it, I'll only say it one more time, but, like, if David Taylor did that to Bo at the Olympic trials, I would have posted the video and I would have been talking about it.
Okay.
This wasn't like an Iowa thing, because I know some of the Iowa fans, come at me with the angle of, the Penn State bias.
Okay. Well, you say, I've never seen it like that with college teammates, right? And there has been a few occasions, you don't see it often. There's a few occasions in an open tournament, this guy wrestles this guy and they get a little chippy. But it's never a big deal. It's never 2 stars like that.
Yeah.
Right. I'll tell you when I saw it. And it wasn't so much like mean mugging, like it wasn't that what we saw with Spencer. It was kind of clowning around. And that was Bubba Jenkins and David Taylor at the East Stroudsburg Open, right up here, when David was a true freshman. And I didn't know it at the time because that's in November. That's in like November, right? And I didn't know it at the time, but we came to find out later that those guys were beefing because Bubba didn't want to wrestle, but he did want to wrestle. But then Kale said he had to wrestle, but then whatever. Then Bubba tried to fail out. Anyway, Bubba and David are wrestling, and Bubba's just trying to, like, mess with him and play with him.
Yeah.
He's just, like, clowning around. And I was like, this ain't a good look.
See, I don't remember that.
That's
but
the only other
again,
time
I'd be posting that video.
Right. Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? So
Why do you keep saying that? Are you saying that because some Iowa fans said you're trying to make people look bad?
There's a lot of people that if something happens with another school, one of the instant reactions is you wouldn't post that if it was two Penn State kids. You
Of
only
course.
post that because you're a Penn State fan, so you're putting, a spotlight on something. Exactly. So that's the reason. And for the most Spencer Lee in Iowa, it is also crazy. There is no doubt that fan base is wild. And the team itself and where it stands, you can have all the opinions in the world. But that fan base and what they do within the sport of wrestling is crazy. Yeah. That tweet where I posted the video and it wasn't,
1.5 million views,
20-second clip, 1.5 million views. And that's not why I posted it. I thought it was newsworthy. I like to randomly post what I want, but yeah, it's crazy, man. Iowa fan base, and a lot of the people that were commenting, some of them probably just don't know who I am, so they don't have the context. Most people who listen to the show know.
Yeah.
And I love the Iowa fans that tweet me like, hey, we appreciate the show. And I had one guy tweeting me like, dude, you're the only one who said when DeSanto and who was it? DeSanto and Marinelli maybe making like their senior level debuts. Like, dude, I just want to cover new stuff. Anyways,
yeah.
Soldiers salute next year. I really hope they do just roll it into Midlands or the Scuffle.
Well,
I don't think it's going to happen because no matter what, the women's side of it is a very good tournament. And I think they should definitely keep that. And I think if they keep the women's, they're going to keep the men's.
I truly think, I'm not saying this because of shock jock. I think the old way of testing yourself against the best multiple times a year is gone. I showed you the numbers. I'm going to post the numbers. It's down by 30%, just sheer matches. And I don't think we're going to see it anymore. I think Tom Brands and the teams that went to the Soldier Salute are perfectly fine with what happened. I think they're perfectly fine with getting in some matches. I don't think that they care that, hey, against, we didn't have 3 ranked kids this weekend. We didn't face 3 ranked kids this weekend. I think they're just trying to get, frankly, I think they're trying to get reps in.
Yeah.
It's hard to fault the teams that went to New Orleans, right? It's hard to fault, oh, Iowa State was supposed to go to the Scuffle. They didn't send all their guys. Penn State didn't. Nebraska, they won Cliff Key, but they didn't do anything this weekend. And it's fault a lot of the New Orleans teams. So I don't think I don't expect Penn State and Iowa State next year to do both. I just don't think it's going to get better. I think the new reality is that it's going to be lighter. It's going to be lighter. We're going to see less matches. And as I said before, I feel like I'm looking at myself. I'm the grandpa yelling, "Get off my lawn." I have to get over the fact that the wrestling season is not going to be what it was when I was younger. It's going to be quasi exhibitions until January.
Do you think people not competing in the medical forfeits are one and the same?
No. And here's why. I don't buy it. And here's why. Listen, I've been ranting about this, right? I've been ranting about forfeits and not wrestling and less participation and path of least resistance. And I have some D1 wrestlers saying, "Oh yeah, Willie, because you know what it's like to hold down your weight and bang against the top guys in the country and deal with some injuries. You know what it's like. So you're talking out your ass." No, I'm not. I'm saying I understand that. But I also understand that not every time that a kid forfeits, he's hurt. He just doesn't want to wrestle. Yep. He just doesn't want to wrestle. And that's fine. Okay. That's fine for that kid. If I'm supposed to wrestle you, Bash, and I just don't feel like wrestling, you know what? I'm not saying that you need any reason in the world. It's your prerogative. You don't have to wrestle. But if I say I'm not wrestling, you know what that does? Number one, it hurts the sport because of viewership, right? It's a match we didn't get to see. You're telling everybody to watch. There's nothing to watch because you ain't wrestling, okay? Number one. But number two, and the biggest import to this, is that you, Justin Bash, who came to this tournament to compete, you don't get an opportunity to notch a win. Okay.
It also sends a very bad message to younger kids, which Jake Herbert's going to come on the show next Friday and talk about younger kids competing, because that's a whole nother thing that was talked about this weekend, where you have these kids that I think Bo Bassett wrestles every single day of his life. And I hope that he...
I'll say this. Well, first things, I don't think that the college kids or the the senior level guys, I don't think they owe it to anybody to wrestle. It's their prerogative. If J.O. is my dude. This is my favorite guy in the world. I love him. But he forfeits out of every tournament, right? That's his prerogative.
He's also like 38.
Yes. But they do owe it to the fellow competitors in the bracket in college. And I say that only because seeding is everything. Seeding is everything. Listen, if the problem with medical forfeits is not that I think you're lying, you're not hurt, although sometimes I think that. It's not even, well, we don't get to see it, because they could say back to me, tough shit. That's right. Tough shit. It's just my unlucky day. I don't get to watch. I wanted to watch you. I don't get to watch you. The crime in it is that if the 10th ranked wrestler and the 9th ranked wrestler are supposed to meet in the Conti semis at the Southern Scuffle, and one medical forfeits, it don't count. The guy that forfeits don't get penalized, and the guy that wins doesn't get credit. And that's bullshit.
Well, and I saw it's the typical response that, well, what if somebody's actually hurt? Well, the problem is, like, Corby was sending me numbers that there was 1,546 matches wrestled at Midlands and Scuffle, 84 medical forfeits. That's 5.4% of all matches.
5.4%. And guess what? 32.5% of all medal bouts at the Scuffle. 33%. 1/3 of the medal matches were forfeits. And you go look at, and you can say, okay, well, it's Southern Scuffle. It's Southern Scuffle. All that matters in March. Oh, really? Because last March we saw a forfeit fest everywhere, including the Big Tens.
Yep. Big Tens was a debacle.
So, yeah, Big Tens was one of the biggest jokes I've ever seen. And you can say, once again, you can say I'm hurt. Jaden Ironman forfeited. Michael Kemmerer forfeited. Do I believe you're hurt? Yes, I know Jaden was hurt. I know Kemmerer was hurt. But it took away opportunity for other guys to notch wins over them. It has to count as a loss. I don't care if you're really dead. It has to count.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, is that whether it's you, Corby, somebody listening who likes to do like these stats and math and all that, it seems to me on the surface that the people who end up winning the tournaments are not the people typically forfeiting.
That's right, baby. That's the point too. And that's my contention. Okay, if Jaden Ironman is too hurt to wrestle in the 5th place match at Big Tens, right? It's a pretty good indication that he's going to be too hurt in 2 weeks and not up to par, not up to the typical Jaden Ironman level, right? Is that a correct assumption? Is that a pretty fair assumption?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did we see? We saw exactly that. Okay. So then why should Ironman keep his seed that high? A full feed, healthy Jaden Ironman? Sure. But he just told you that he's not fully healthy. So if he just told you that he's not fully healthy, bump his seed down because he's not 100%.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is count those medical forfeits as losses.
And I think it's, it's interesting because it's like, I love Carr. And as much as I wanted to see him and O'Toole this week, they are still going to wrestle 3 potential times. They'll wrestle in the duel. They could wrestle at conference championships and potentially at NCAAs. So I understand the side, especially some of these kids like Carr aren't even making the decision. Coach is trying to do what's best for them and say,
well, like you said,
we're going to rest you.
It sounds like neither Carr nor Keegan made the decision. It sounded like the coaches, that was on the coaches, right?
That's what it sounds like. And the more and more
I know that the more I bitch about this, the more D1 wrestlers think that I'm trying to be like Macho Man, like, don't, Willie's telling us we ain't tough if we forfeit. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I've said it for a long time. College wrestling is the toughest sport in the world. It's the toughest. Wrestling's the toughest sport. College is the toughest level because it's nonstop. It's keeping your weight down. It's 5 months long. It's banging and grinding and folk styles, really tough. Maybe tougher than freestyle, really. With riding and working against the joints and stuff like that. I am not calling anybody's manhood out. What I'm saying is if you're hurt and you can't wrestle, it should count into seeding. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. And I also think that it's important if there are wrestlers listening that think we're just poo-pooing on them. While a wrestler is 100%, not 100%, most of them are only caring about winning a national championship.
Right.
You and I don't give a damn about winning a national tournament. You and I are marketing the sport, promoting the sport, wanting the sport to grow. So, of course, we're going to come more from a place of what's best for viewership, what's best to move the sport forward, what's aggravating as a fan.
I do have a bias that way because when I'm looking at if all the 30% less college matches nowadays among the elite, among the All-American, 30% less matches. You can look at that and say, okay, that's the way the sport's going. That's best for my athlete. A pitch count, a lesser load is better for my athlete. You can say that. And that could be right. You and the athlete know better than me. I'm just a talking head. But where I'm coming from is that's 30% less time. Instead of 10 times, I get to see Austin O'Connor. Now I get to see him 7. In 2012, I got to see all the stars 10 times. In 2022, I get to see him 7. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Okay? So it's hard to grow the sport. There's nothing that you go out and you spend the same amount of money on and get less back, right? You're taking 3 of 10 matches away and asking to grow. It's not going to happen.
Correct. And that's why it's not a thing. And I had put out a tweet when I had said, like, I put out the article about these are the top 10 matches I'd like to see this weekend. And 9 of them weren't going to happen before the scuffle even started. There was only 1.
Yeah. And here's another thing. You know why freestyle? You know why nobody cares about freestyle?
Well, because there's no college association.
And there's no season.
Mm-hmm.
There's no season. How can you? It's like
there's no team. There's no season.
That's like just going to the end of a movie and watching it, right? It's like going to the end of a movie and you watch it and that's neat. Yeah, because you're not surprised, you're not excited, it doesn't hit you deep, there's not that emotion because you didn't follow the whole story. To get to get the emotion, you have to know all the facts going into it. And for freestyle, there's just people don't know what they're looking at.
Right.
And yeah, it's just bad. You know, we can get over this. You know, one thing we need to talk about and why it hurts so much is because when you want to talk now let's talk about what we learned over the past couple weeks. Let's talk about what we learned at Soldier Salute. Let's talk about who surprised, who did good, who's coming out of the woodwork, who's not wrestling well from Soldier Salute, from Midlands, from Southern Scuffle. You know what the answer to it is? You know what the predicate is to this whole stuff that we've been talking about? We didn't learn anything. Nothing happened.
Well, that's
we went through 3 tournaments, and it's like, yeah, so what? Nothing even. I mean, not much mattered.
No, and there was a lot of chalk wrestling, or there was a lot of wrestling that was like, okay, at 125 pounds at the Midlands, for example, Barnett, the 1 seed, takes out Brandon Courtney, the 2 seed. That's chalk. A 1 beats a 2. The questions are, oh my gosh, is Pat Glory going to be in there? Is Brandon Courtney and Richie Figs, are they going to wrestle each other? Well, what? And then all of a sudden, all the storylines kind of get taken out, and it's a chalk, win. It's
right. And you know who's the X factor? You know who's kind of an X factor because he wrestled about 4 matches last year? You know who I really wanted to see? Killian Cardinell. And what did he do? I want to move on from the freestyle portion. I mean, a forfeit portion. I want to move on to it, but you almost can't.
Well, it's like looking at
Killian Cardinell goes to Midlands, and I'm like, great. We're going to see him against some top flight guys. He wrestles the first day, and then he forfeits out.
Well, I've got the Midlands results pulled up, right? So you got at 125 pounds, Barnett beats Courtney 6-2 in the finals. Diego wins by medical forfeit over Dean Peterson for 3rd. Jack Medley wins over Cardinell for 5th, medical forfeit. So it's like,
yeah, but Cardinell forfeited out of the front side.
Yeah,
he never even lost. Okay, so love Tim Flynn, but I don't understand. Because this is what you're telling me, Justin. What you're telling me is, I'm Killian Cardinell. I'm going to fly across the country. I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to go to Midlands. I'm going to get a top seed because I'm a former AA. I'm going to get a top seed, and probably the first 2 guys are probably going to be probably 2 of the worst in the bracket because that's how seeding works, right? So I'm going to go there. I'm going to wrestle 2 matches, and I'm going to forfeit out. So you're telling me that you jumped in a plane from West Virginia, you went to Chicago, you weighed in, you said, I'm going to wrestle the 2 worst kids in the bracket, and then I'm out. That's what your plan was? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't either. You want to talk about there was a couple storylines, takeaways from each tournament. You want to talk about Midlands and Scuffle a little bit?
Yeah, whatever you...
All right, so I'll tell you a couple storylines for me that were interesting at Midlands. I thought Doug Zapp continues to impress me. I think he's right there.
And by the way, did you see his tweet?
No, I don't think so. Which one? I did. Yeah.
Because Crookham from Lehigh made the semis and then lost, and then defaulted out, and they, Lehigh put up a graphic. Ryan Crookham made semis, defaults to 6, and Zapp comes over top and says, "But why? Why can't you wrestle back?"
Yep. And he said, "If you're injured, you're injured. Say that, but don't." Yeah, looked good this weekend. He beat Parco 4-3.
I thought Zapp wrestled really well. I was impressed with him.
He's right there, dude. He is.
I know. I thought the 133-pound bracket was actually really cool. With Kolioko in a wild one with Bird.
He looked
in
good
the quarter.
too.
That was a quarter or a semi, and then barely hung on, and then he also beats Cannon. Kolioko is a tough hombre, and I've just been waiting for him to bust out. He has, big spot here over Cannon and Bird.
Yeah. Quincy Monday, it looks like we've got the answer that he's at 65 for the season. He looked good. He beat Hamady. I believe Princeton confirmed that he's staying at 65. I'm assuming the weight cut was just too bad. He made it a couple times. And
what do they do with Glory?
Weighed in at 133 or was entered at 133 and then didn't. I don't know if he weighed in or not. He was entered at 133 and then
he was going 125 and then he was going 133 and then he didn't go anything, which says to me that for him to maintain a pace to make 25, he couldn't have weighed in at 33. He would have had to weigh in at like 28, 29. Right. And still wrestle 33. So it says to me like he was way over. Like he wasn't even close. So who knows? Who knows what we'll see? And I think the implication there is, I mean, to me, and I don't want to poo-poo anybody at 125. Every 125 is my favorite weight. And I'm sure there'll be lots of kids, lots of Division I wrestlers that listen to this and say, F you, Willie. If they wrestle 125 right now. But frankly, it's a bummer because I feel like this year, if there's no Glory and Spencer Lee's in the field, I feel like there's almost no drama. There's almost not drama if Patrick Glory is there, but at least it's somebody that can maybe score a point on Spencer. Yeah. Right. Now, next year when Spencer's gone, Patrick Glory's gone, you have a really dynamic weight. Who's going to come out on top? I don't know. It's interesting. But right now with Spencer in this field and no Patrick Glory, it's a snoozer.
Yeah, it is. Dayton Pitzer had himself a tournament.
He did. And a lot of people, the Bronicles had a good tournament too. Danny Bronicle beat somebody on the front side, and then the other Bronicle won it, beating Amos in the finals. But Pitzer, a lot of people were asking about Pitzer. I had him 41 on my big board, which I know right now is looking like Willie, you idiot. That's way too low. And I loved him coming out. I mean, he had a real chance to make like PIAA history. He won a state title as a freshman at like 170 or something big. Like he won a big boy weight as a freshman. And then he lost his whole year. And then he won a title at like 82 or 95. And then he won a title at 215. So he was a 3-time state champ and missed the whole year. The problem with it, so I loved him. And I loved his, he beat TJ Stewart last year. He's really good on top. He's always been great on top. He's Robbie Waller kind of school of wrestling. The hard part was he was kind of a tweener. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know what weight he was going to go. Between 97 and heavyweight, I'm like, I don't know if he's big enough. If he's a heavyweight, he's going to take a couple years to grow into it, and he might try to make 97 and be too much of a pool. That's number one. Number two, he didn't go to Super 32. He didn't go to Fargo.
Yeah.
And so I didn't knock him down because of that. I just had question marks about it. So that was Dayton Pitzer. But, he pinned Schultz. What do you make of Schultz loss? His second loss of the year.
Schultz seems like one of those guys who is at that point where he takes a couple losses and it's becoming less shocking when he takes a loss. But if he went out there, I've already said time and time again, I think it's Kirk's weight this year. I think Kirk wins it. But if Schultz went out there and win it, I wouldn't be surprised. The kid clearly has the talent. He's got the skill. I don't know if there's, you never know. You've said it before. You don't know what's going on with a kid if he goes through a breakup, what's going on with his family, if there's a health thing. Nobody knows. It's so hard. And Colton's like, I look at him and I think there's got to be something going on that he's just not 100% right now. Maybe that's an excuse, but he's so good that I don't really I think if I'm an Arizona fan, I'm a little bit less hopeful for NCAAs, but you still know he can do it.
He can do it, but you're not picking him now, right? And who knows? It's hard to, when you start getting in your third, fourth year, it's hard to keep the fire lit 5 months a year.
Yep.
Right. And this is a kid who won trials, was on the world team. So he had to keep his flame lit for 12 months. So,
and by the way, and I'll say this too, to kind of tie this back with the earlier theme. I'm glad he went. I think it's in his interest that he took a loss from the standpoint of know where you got to grow, know what you got to do different to win a national championship. The wrestling fans lose if Schultz doesn't wrestle this tournament because, well, I don't need to wrestle that. I just want to win a national championship. I'm glad he went. I'd rather these guys take losses and you see the ups and downs throughout the year. Makes it so much more exciting.
That's the freaking benefit of hitting good tournaments too. How do you know what holes you have in your game if you haven't been tested?
Yep. And Arizona State, like Schultz specifically, I don't know their schedule by heart, but I don't think they see too many more top dogs at heavyweight. I mean, his
schedule, if you took his schedule from the beginning of the year, it wasn't that bad because he would have seen Paris and maybe like Hendrickson at Vegas. He didn't because he lost to Neville's. And then he had Midlands.
And I mean, I don't know how to pronounce the Harvard kid's name. I know you do, but he had a good win over him, pinning him. I think he's ranked like 7th. That was a good win. 4 out of the top 5 guys at heavyweight are Big Ten guys.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk, Paris, Big Tone, and Davison. So, I'm glad he went. It seems like a lot of these coaches are going to start being more and more strategic, but
yeah. Soldier Salute. You learn anything there?
No. I mean, I think you said it best. They got reps in.
They got reps in. It was a Hawkeye party. Murin over Ratchie over Etchemendia, which was.
By the way, Iowa posted like Ohio State's Etchemendia. He's not back at Ohio State, right? Was he just wearing an Ohio State singlet or something?
I don't know.
I didn't want them to think I was like trying to correct him, but I saw
he's at like Iowa Central or Iowa Lakes or Iowa something, one of those colleges.
Yeah, I didn't know because they said like over Ohio State's Etchemendia. I'm like, I don't think he's back at Ohio State.
Yeah. Assad beat Berge in OT. Warner beat Franklin. Yeah, not much. We didn't learn much there. So let's go to the scuffle. What did you like? North Dakota State balled out. I mean, they put 5 in the
yeah, but Will, it wasn't half their guys.
Dude, he drives me nuts with his tedium. He drives me nuts.
That's how Jason Bryan does to me sometimes. Jason
does it too. Jason does it too. So in case if you didn't see, I tweeted North Dakota State put half their team in the finals, which I mean half their starters, right? I mean 5 weights out of 10.
Half of their guys
in the finals. Seton Hall Pirate, who is really like a wrestling numbers guy, dork, number cruncher. He's like, they had 16 entries, so they didn't put half their team. They put 5 of their. Shut up.
I was cracking up your response. Don't be an idiot.
Well, I knew that somebody that could go that direction, but I was like, why would they? They know what I mean.
So a couple things about Scuffle. What do you make of Dayton Fix?
I think he's fine. I think he's good.
That was a close win, and I think sometimes when you see a star like Dayton not get like a major or this or that, you give it a second glance. I'm just glad he's wrestling. I think, listen, he's definitely got to. I know you've picked Dayton every year at NCAAs, but you got to lean Roman this year, not just because he's 2-0.
But I lean Roman this year. It's a really weird thing.
If they hadn't wrestled before, take away the 2 finals matches, would you still lean Roman? No. If you just saw them competing?
No.
Because I think I would lean Roman. I know I'm obviously biased.
Yeah.
But
now, yes.
Correct. Like right now, take away matches in the past.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I cannot differentiate though between freestyle and folk. I cannot. Dayton beats guys all over the world, right?
He's one of the best in the world.
Dayton has beat Thomas Gilman in a best of 3 series to make the senior world team. It's hard not to pick against that.
Yeah.
Right. But Roman's very good at what he does. And you make a
Dayton Fix also, he didn't just do that to make the world team. He went and won a silver world medal in
right,
Oslo.
he made the finals that year, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So it's always hard for me to pick, and they just happen. Roman and Dayton happen to be the two. I'm really close to both of them. I'm kind of close to both of them, and I love both of them. Right?
Yeah.
It's
both great kids.
It drives me nuts. I wish they were different weight classes. I don't know, but Roman is very patient. You make a point about, well, if the score is close, you go back and take a closer look. Right? When Roman was wrestling Adesov, I was going through my head. I was like, people are going to see this score. That was a close match that just snowballed into a giant discrepancy. Like, that wasn't an ass beating, but Roman left no doubt.
Yep.
And sometimes that's how in folk style with the riding time and you can just make a match. A match could be closer and then all it just expands.
So Andrew Alira is at 41, wins OW of the tournament, beats. So in the rankings, Alira is ranked 3rd. He beat 4th ranked Alan Hart of Missouri in the finals, 8-4. I know Earl has Cole Matthews 1, who just won the other tournament. Real Woods 2, Alira's 3. Would you do the same?
In my crystal ball, last update, I had Matthews, Woods, Bartlett, Alirez. And I think that's a tier. I don't see anybody else entering that tier with the exception of Casey Swiderski. And I'm not saying, you can say, Willie, that's speculative. Yeah. But I think Swiderski could be in that tier. I don't know if he is. Okay. That's the only one I can see possibly getting there. I don't see Jake Berglund being in that tier. Maybe Alan Hart, but probably not. I don't think Brock Hardy. I think guys like Berglund, Hardy, Drogemuller, Happel, and Ryan Jack, I think, are in the second tier. But I think Matthews, Woods, Bartlett, Alirez, I think is one tier, and I wouldn't be surprised if any of them make the finals. Who would you have? If you had to pick today, who would be your pick to win 141? Because it's an interesting weight. My thing with Matthews is I just think Matthews gets a job done. I saw somebody tweet the other day, Matthews is on shaky ground or something. No, he'll win 3-2 and he don't care. That's a winning 3-2 is a far way a ways from a loss.
I think, much like you say, it's hard to separate folk style from freestyle. I think everybody kind of forms a bias, an opinion, a perspective on a wrestler, whether they know it or not. Some people look at Seth Gross and think, man, this dude wrestles funky. He's not going to win this. Right. And then he goes out and blows somebody out, Mm-hmm. So I think it's one of those weights where, like you said, Cole Matthews continues to gets it done. Real Woods could win it all. It wouldn't surprise me. Bo Bartlett down at 41 seems a hell of a lot natural.
Yeah.
He seems a lot more like the Bo Bartlett we thought we were going to see.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Bo, I don't know what top guys have. Let's see what Bo has done.
And by the way, talking about not being able to separate folks on freestyle, I'm still a little bit swayed by the performance Alira's had a couple years ago at Senior Nationals.
He got it. The kid got it.
Where he just he went and steamrolled 65 kilos.
Yeah, yeah. And remember, this is a kid. A lot of people, I don't know, some college fans don't follow wrestling. I saw a comment the other day that said somebody recently informed me that how good Andrew Alirez was, and I thought to myself, "What are you, nuts? The kid was ranked number 1 in this country in high school." How do you know? But some people just don't follow high school, and so Northern Colorado, they don't get as much shine. You might not know how good Alirez is. Well, he has all the tools, and I think he's getting a lot better on the mat riding. Bo Bartlett, Redding, Lachlan McNeil, Cleveland Belton, Malik Hines. Bo hasn't wrestled any of the top guys yet. The eyeball test, I think he's in that mix.
Yeah, and Bo's had one of those schedules that's he's had a lighter first half the season, but it's about to go through, I think, a lot tougher of competition going through the Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, really weird weight this year, 141.
It is. Even in the Big Ten, like if you look at the top 4, it's ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, because the top 2 guys coming back with 5th and 6th in the country, right?
Yeah.
It's you don't see a weight clear out that much.
Nope. Other things that scuffle. 57. Frantic beats Coleman. Close, about as close as a match as one can have.
Yeah. Cardenas 3rd over G Feller, and G lost to Charlie Derricott, the backup at Stanford. G, he'll make you feel all kinds of emotions, G Feller. He'll beat, a national champ and then lose to a backup. But Frantic over Coleman, Cardenas over G Feller. Griffith, I'll tell you, just the same way with Cole Matthews. I think Cole Matthews will win 4-2, and he looks like he's doing nothing. He just knows how to win matches. And I had some people say, why is Shane, is there something wrong with Shane? No, he just wins. He'll get his hand raised. Nothing wrong with him. He's fine.
Yeah. I think when he won the NCAAs a couple of years ago, I'm pretty sure his matches were pretty close. I don't think any of them were like.
Yeah. Well, I have last year's pulled up. Last year he was runner up. Let's see what his matches were last year. He went Tech in the first match, then 7-3, 10-4, 7-6 over Wick, 6-5 in the finals. So he wrestles, I wouldn't worry about a 3-2 win over Caliendo, who Caliendo is a strong kid. Tough kid. North Dakota State.
Yeah, they had a very good tournament.
Plot over Mako, Whitlake over DJ Parker, another North Dakota State kid. Owen Pence, default over Louis Dupre, but great job by Owen Pence getting to the finals in the first place because that Serber was there and Jackson Smith, who's highly regarded, was there, and Ethan Laird. He pinned.
I was just gonna say, yeah, yep,
right. Isn't that who Pence pinned Laird? Right.
I believe so. Yeah,
I watched it with my eyeballs. That's a development. Is that not a development? That's probably the biggest news of the weekend.
Well, and it's funny because going back again to the beginning, when I put out top 10 matches I wanted to see, it was Rocky Elam and Ethan Laird. And then we don't get that. And then here you have it where, and it's funny because Rocky would have been the 1 seed, I believe, and Laird the 2. So it's funny. I don't know how it would have, if we would have seen the same matches, but yeah. Laird taking a pin there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the holiday season.
Yeah. And now it gets fun because now it's January. It's the thick of the season. Tomorrow night, Cornell ASU. Maybe we get Yanni Parco. Maybe we don't. That should be a really
on. Is that on Flow? What is that on?
It's a Flow in Austin, I think. So probably like one of those no fan duels.
Gotcha.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a lot of the conference duels start. I know Penn State, Wisconsin, Gomez, Van Ness.
That's another one.
That'll be a fun one.
You know, we got to see Bo against some top guys. We got to see, we got to see Van Ness against. Well, we saw him against Manzona, and then we saw him against Pinero. But you know, there's some question marks for Penn State, and we know that Van Ness and Bartlett are good. Just how good in the field?
Yep.
So,
one senior level note. We were talking about this before.
Yeah.
Because people have been asking, USA Wrestling has not put out the official World Team Trials procedures.
Yeah.
And what everybody on the back end says, i.e. the wrestlers, what they're telling me is that they are being told for the 8 out of 10 weights where there's a returning world team medalist, the winner of the Open in April advances right to Final X. No World Team Trials, none of that crap in the middle.
Whoa. So, hold up.
So let's put it this way:
the winner of the Open at weights where there is a medalist
goes right to Final X.
So that means Thomas Gilman has to wrestle at the Open?
No, so Thomas Gilman's at Final X.
Oh, okay, right.
So whoever wins the Open goes to Final X to wrestle Gilman.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense.
The only World Team Trials that will take place is for the 2 weights where somebody is not sitting out at Final X.
So is that the way they did it? That's not the way they did it.
I don't think they've ever done it because it's always been. Well, the winner of the Open went to the World Team Trials, but there was a challenge tournament.
Only at a non-medaled weight.
We've also never had this good of a team where it's like 8 out of 10 guys medal, so it's a unique kind of year.
Right. It used to be the Open would just be for seeding if there was a medalist at your weight, right?
Do you remember how good the Open used to be like 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
It used to be awesome. And it sounds like USA Wrestling wants to make the Open great again. So I'm good with that.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I didn't know this. I didn't know that this was going to be the procedure. I think that that's going to make the Open great again. Let's make the Open great again.
It's going to be. And I think, and that's what all the wrestlers are telling me when I ask them like their schedule on competition.
Did you go last year? You didn't go.
Last year was the first year I didn't go.
Dude,
no.
You got to go I had a blast. I went 2 days early, stayed 2 days late.
I normally go with Bashada, and we stay at the Aria. We have so much fun. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year.
Wait, I think Bashada did go.
Did he go last year? I don't think he did.
I think.
Really, the problem this year is my wife is due on the first day of April, on the first day of the Open.
Dang it.
I'm still trying to figure out how to make Oklahoma State or Tulsa happen for NCAAs because she's gonna be pretty far along, but still 3-4 weeks to go, so it should be good. But I'm still waiting to hear back on getting us a suite because they said they were going to go down the list, and everybody who tells me, was just talking to Clay over at the Cowboy Wrestling Club, and he was saying,
"I'm going to see him this weekend."
He said, "Don't get your hopes up." He said,
the vibe I get is that there ain't no shot in hell.
He said, "Are you coming?" I said, "Well, trying to see if I can get a suite." And he said, "Yeah, it's
Basch is like, I ain't sitting in those seats like a schmuck, like a regular Joe.
I want to work the tournament, and you can't work sitting. You gotta like the press pass is great to talk to the wrestlers, coaches, other people." But then you want to just go and either sit down and work or have a meeting with someone or whatever. And it's
from a workflow perspective, it seems like, okay, you try to get, and I've been doing this for years. And it's like, you want to get out a good product, but at the same time, where are you supposed to do it? Are you supposed to do it in the tunnels where there's all kinds of noise? Are you supposed to do it in the suite? And when are you supposed to do it? Are you supposed to do it at the end of the day when who's going to watch it? People just watched wrestling for 7 hours.
I know. And it's what the one good thing about being forced basically to not go in 2021 was it was so nice. I had Chenzo and I had Roman and Nick Leon. First thing Sunday morning, like they landed back in State College. We did an episode of the podcast. You're able to get stuff out, get graphics out, get all this stuff out. It's great, but like you said,
I've said that about tournaments a lot of times. It is often, Willie, why aren't you going to this tournament? It's easier to work from home.
Yep.
Especially, you know what? Worlds is so much easier to do from far away because, especially with the time differences, you can get more out. What do you when you're at Worlds, you're going to be watching the whole time and then going down for interviews, and then you're supposed to get a wrap up, and
yeah. So it's tough. So it's still up in the air. I mean, I'm definitely going to go through the process of getting a press pass, and I'm hoping a suite can still happen.
Well, we got to find, dude. You got to go to Vegas, bro.
We're going to squat the tournament, or we're going to squat the arena one way or another. Like,
oh yeah. But I need you in Vegas, bro.
Dude, my wife's due that day, literally the 25th of April. I think that's like the first day of the Open. That's the day she's due.
That's my baby. You know, I love the Open because I love Vegas, but I also love the Open for the wrestling. And now that they have cadet trials there, forget about it. That's my.
Well, the Open's also so fun too, because it used to be where here you get off this high in the middle of March in NCAAs, and then you go to the Open and you get 2 NCAA champions in the first round.
I know. It's so crazy.
And they're standing by the what is it? Not a platoon. What's that restaurant in the middle? The cowboy saloon. Bar. The saloon. The saloon in the middle. You're just standing there. 2 NCAA champs walk by to go wrestle. And it's especially after coming down from NCAAs, and then you have 2 NCAA champs wrestling the first round.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. I'm bummed probably won't be able to make it this year, but
you going to any duels coming up?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know which ones.
I have to do, Penn State has I haven't been at a Penn State duel in years. Like a couple years.
The best duel I've ever been to was Penn State, Ohio State, when Ohio State was supposed to win. Nolf was injured.
I didn't go to that one.
True story.
That's the one where somebody beat Cullen Moore. Was that Shaq?
Yes, and then Kassar beat him, I thought.
Kassar beat him?
I think.
There was a late switch.
Or was Kassar having
I don't know if Shaq came in for Kassar or Kassar came in for Shaq. One of those
there was something. But the night before, I was staying at Cal's house. And that night, I had so much adrenaline. It's a 3-hour drive. I'm like, I'm just going to drive home. Cal's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's 3 hours. I'll be home in the morning. I'll go to church. Everything will be great.
Yeah.
I come down from the adrenaline high about an hour away from Rochester.
Yeah.
Fall asleep. Drive off the road. All of a sudden, I go going down the median of the highway, and then
no way.
I was awake the rest of the ride there. Yeah, that was scary. As I turned, the truck was sliding against the guardrail, and I just kept driving straight. And I was like, I didn't even stop to see if the truck was okay. I'm like,
so this year, Penn State is having 2 at Bryce Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make either one of them because I have one of them's I'm streaming number one.
So it's Michigan, Iowa is the 20th, 27th.
One of them is the same date as Blair Del Barton. The other one is the same date as Blair Sem. So I don't know if I can.
Iowa, Penn State at Bryce Jordan, January 27th will be a fun one that I'm trying to get to for sure.
I went to the last 2 Penn State duels at Carver, which is
Fellers tells me all the time, I have to get to that duel.
Fire.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I want to get to that one. All right, Willie.
All right, my man. Good to wrap everything up with you.
We'll do another one soon. Let us know where you agree, disagree. Tweet us. You know we can't stay off of Twitter. All right, buddy. Later.
All right, see you.
and the beat goes on.